Good afternoon, class. It is Sunday afternoon, and I thought I'd go ahead and develop my own little message video for you guys, and then you can then you'll have two examples. You can use a PowerPoint approach with an audio um, activation like Dawn has done, or you can just do a uploaded video that you shoot yourself. I wanted to talk a little bit about conflict resolution and using a method that Peter Senge does. He does this thing called the U process, and it's a great way to come together on a topic you may not see eye to eye on. But before we do that, and I wanted to just take a minute, in the form of an icebreaker. And then maybe you guys can respond in like fashion. Tell me one thing about yourself that others may not know about. When I say others, I'm talking about people that aren't necessarily close to you. And I will go first. Years ago, when my children, who are all adults now, when they were growing up, instead of reading to them at night, I would tell them a story. I was very good at creating stories sort of on the fly. And there was one story that I got to saying all the time. And it went through all four kids. I told the story to all four kids. And it was called Jacques the Bear. And it was about this little bear who could speak French, and he would walk down this road along the side of the road, and he just magically would show up just in time to help people out with whatever need they had. And I ended up writing a children's book called Jacques the Bear. And I featured in there as the other main character my young son at the time. And as it turns out, I ended up writing a children's book for each of the four that featured each of the four kids. And then later on down the line, I created one called The Adventures of Jacques the Bear. That was a hardback book that had all four stories in it. So some people don't know that I'm also a children's book author. I don't really do it anymore, but I used to be. When we talk about conflict resolution, I think one of the important things to think about is that if you've got an issue where there's a conflict with somebody, you really should go private on that. Not only talk to the individual privately, but if it's a small group of people that there's a major disagreement on, if there's a broader group that the smaller group is part of, get the smaller group off to the side. Go into a separate room and chat about it. See where the disagreement is. It may be you may be the problem. So by talking with them, your eyes may be opened to what you are doing wrong, or it may reveal an area that you need to improve. But it will also give you a chance, for instance, if you're the boss, to talk to the individual privately instead of in front of the rest of the group. Sometimes emotions can get the best of you, and you end up doing something publicly or within the group that you kind of wish you hadn't. Okay, it can come back to bite you later on. Also, with some of the rules that they have now in HR, you've got to abide by a certain way, and there needs to be respect, and that kind of thing, respect and courtesy, and that kind of thing. So my recommendation right off the bat, and this is I'm speaking as someone who's been challenged by this my whole life, because I have a tendency to be right to the point. But be more loving. Approach your work situations with love. Okay, kind of a filial love, more of a friendship kind of a love. That's more associated with a professional kind of love. And be more empathetic. I used to believe that people can't learn empathy, and I'll be honest with you, I still believe that for the most part. But you can take empathetic actions okay, that can really make it real to not only you, but the person you're talking to, that you genuinely care about them and you genuinely care about their view. And then, in like fashion, ask them for their opinion, seek their advice, be more democratic or participative, as we've talked about in previous lessons, in your search for a solution. So, what I wanted to chat with you for the next few minutes. This is out of the book The Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge. It's spelled Senge, but it's pronounced Senge. He talks about learning organizations, and even though it may not directly be applicable to conflict resolution, he's got a thing in the back called the U process. It's in the appendix. And the U process helps a group collaboratively undertake sensing, deep inquiry into their mental models through seeing reality beyond their filters. Okay, it's looking at what other people are saying, listening to them. Presencing, moving from there to a deep process of connecting with purpose and visioning, individually and collectively. Okay, so it's after your eyes have been opened, you understand the other person's point of view, and they understand yours. It then goes into presencing, and then from there it goes into realizing, then moving into rapid prototyping to translate the visions into concrete working models from which feedback can be garnered and further adjustments made. This is when you start realizing what you all have agreed to. And some examples of this, if it only worked that way, it used to. And, if Congress would start working across the aisle, if you get Republicans and Democrats working together, and they went with this U process, starting with co-sensing, it's transforming perception. I teach my other classes about this, and just having somebody over for a cookout, say they're in the opposite party, or they're not agreeing with what you're agreeing, have them over for a cookout, or maybe meet and play tennis or something like that, or just even meet for a cup of coffee. You can sit there and you can talk about what's troubling you or what they're being troubled by, and see if there's a area where you both can agree. And then if there's certain activities that each want to do, this is what we used to call pork. You agree with them that you'll add their part to the bill if they will agree to support the bill. But I'm just saying a political example there. The same can go with how you exist with your neighbor, who may have a tree that's growing over into your yard, just something like that. That then leads to that co-presencing. It's transforming self and will. So at this point, you've got the transforming the perception, then transforming the will. And as we talked about earlier, you kind of get into the team learning, the prototyping, adjusting. There's even some systems thinking in there. And that gets into the co-realizing or transforming action. And this is something that really does work. And if more people would learn to do this, I think you'd have less conflict. But when you factor in, the different conflicting options you have, including avoiding it or, discussing it or coming up with some kind of a mitigation, just practicing something like the U process that Peter Senge, suggests, is a good alternative. If you guys ever get a chance, or if you continue in your studies, I highly recommend the book, and it's called The Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge, and you can get it on Amazon. This version, the latest copyright is 2006. So that's all I have. thank you very much. I hope to see some replies from you in the notes on the discussion.